In one sense, all the hard work is done. In the next sense, all the hard work gets started right now, and that's to get it deployed. Fortunately, we have collaborated with AVfuel to do the industrialization of this, and we've got a pretty good plan in place to get that done, but it's going to take some time. One of the better plans is to roll it out at one of the major flight schools. Embry-Riddle is a good example. They actually did a bunch of the testing as an independent third party, and they've got a big interest in it. We're trying to work out the logistics, but that would be a really nice way to start it, and then as fast as we can produce it thereafter and get the quantities ramped up. I mean, it's a major industrialization project, but we've, if you will, war gamed on how to do that. We've got all of the component suppliers lined up and committed with pricing. So yeah, we've got that part of the plan in play. Well, there's a lot of places that don't have facilities for manufacturing high octane blend stocks, for instance. But we've sourced a supply of very high quality aviation alkylate blend stock that can be shipped by rail car to any place in the United States or North America or by ship around the world. And so if you've got a set of probably a half a dozen large storage tanks and have the technical expertise and have access to industrial scale transportation, rail and whatnot, trucks, you could actually make this stuff. It's not dependent on that small number of refineries that have those very specialized aviation alkylation units.
Well, the initial two STCs, there's one airframe and one engine. Each are AML STCs, so they're approved model list STCs that a lot of comprehensive testing has been done that applies to the fleet itself. The limitation is a few engines and a few airplanes really targeted towards a training environment. And we have a few select tests left to expand that in probably the next 6 to 9 months to a very broad base of high performance and other engines and airplanes.
Initially, in the very beginning, it's kind of ironic, but Embry-Riddle University showed up at this booth right where we're standing today in 2012 and said, we want to get the lead out of the gasoline at the campus at Embry-Riddle. Can you come talk to us? And we went over to a building and they volunteered to help with some of the certification heavy duty lifting, and they did. So the initial AML STCs are targeted on that fleet of training airplanes. But as one FAA person put it, when we sign this piece of paper, you're pregnant. Just stop and see what happens in 9 months. And that's really sort of the primary timeline for us to finish 2 additional tests. And they're not new tests, they're verification tests of tests we've already done, successfully done and have approved in the data package, which is why the FAA is issuing the initial STCs at this time. But they said, look, this is a really big deal, and it is, and we'd like you to do these before we expand the model list. And so those tests are both underway as we speak right now. All of the 172s that are currently in the training fleet at Embry-Riddle and all of their associated Lycoming engines of all the different varieties, there's 3 or 4 different varieties, those are all on the existing AML STC. The defined list, if you go to Embry-Riddle's website and look up the planes they use for training, that's what's on the AML, okay? But anybody that's got one of those airplanes, and any other flight school that's got one of those airplanes, can order up a batch of this fuel and start using it literally tomorrow, legally.
Yeah, there are actually a few carbureted engines and other engines that are outside of Embry-Riddle's specific use today.
Yeah, but some of those are widely used around the country. I just checked yesterday with two different flight schools, and they said, bring it on. Oh, yeah, I mean, look, if they wanted to get some small quantities, that can be arranged, but there's no point in getting sidetracked with delivering partial truckloads of fuel. Now, one interesting aspect of this, and it's really critical in terms of infrastructure, is that the fuel is completely fungible with 100 low lead. You can mix it in the FBO tank, for instance, a classic example. When we finally get the production stream online, an FBO that's got a 10,000 gallon 100 low lead tank can burn it down to 1,500 gallons, pick up the phone, call the supplier for G100 and have a 8,000 gallon transport show up on his ramp and just dump it in on top of the existing 100 low lead. And by the specific wording that is uniquely in the specification that's approved by the FAA, the fuel that is mixed with 100 low lead remains a fuel that conforms to the specification for G100 UL. So there's not a commerce or qualification or a conformity issue because of the nature and the language that's in the specification that's approved by the FAA. Our preliminary estimates are that the price of the fuel as it comes over the fence at the refinery, the blender, whoever makes the fuel, that the cost of a gallon of G100 UL is going to be more, broad range somewhere between 50 cents and $1, target range somewhere between 65 and 85 cents a gallon more as it goes over the fence or out through the gate or in the rail car at the source of the fuel.
First thing is this is wonderful for the industry, because what we have now is a solution to the thing that we've been standing here for since I was a young man trying to figure out is what do we have as a solution. We have a great solution now, and I think the path forward is a pretty logical one. It's a path of commercialization. And so first of all, we had making it in a test tube, so to speak, figuratively, then you make it in a barrel, then a small tank, and then a larger tank, and then bigger tanks, and then multiple locations. And that would be if you drew it on a grease board, that would be your commercialization process that you were going to go through. Now the timing on that, what might be your next question, is going to be, well, it depends on a lot of things. We're researching all the alternatives right now for refiners or blenders to produce it. We've already reached out to all of them, and we're hoping to accelerate it as fast as possible. It's going to be done on a fair and equitable basis, available to everyone that you currently know in the system, all on the same basis. And we hope that we'll do is promote it out as fast as it can be done. Will that be October 1? No. But we're going to be certainly providing it to some flight schools this year, and then you move on to another flight school and another one, and so on. So, getting the lead out of the fuel simplifies it for everyone in the process. If you're handling lead or a lead product, you're going to have to comply with a whole set of rules that's different than if you don't handle lead. So I think it's a relief for the whole logistics production of the system. Will eventually, that's going to be great. And avgas is transported at long distances now, and so as you bring on, one, if you bring it on, invent a location, Atlanta, and if somebody's in Seattle, it's got a lot of logistics and a lot of cost in logistics. The price of this will come down as you go through time and you have more and more distribution points. Think of a map of the country, and in that example of Atlanta to Seattle, but as soon as you have one in Seattle and Atlanta, now you've actually cut everything in half and put one in Phoenix and Chicago, and you start to see the efficiencies in transportation, which is also part of the green response. So we need to get it out to a lot of locations, keep the price competitive, and that's the commercialization process. Well, I was kidding around this morning. I said October 1, I'd be ready to go. I didn't say which year. But when the whole system's complete, I really can't pin a date on that yet. I'm not smart enough or have enough information to do that. I can see very clearly the initial part of the commercialization of multiple flight schools, demonstrations, people doing very similar to we're working on a parallel path. It's also environmentally driven. That's the SAF and JET. And you look over the last few years, we've done demonstration days. We've done dozens of airports now have it available, and it just takes time. When will SAF or avgas be available everywhere? It's still not even unknown with SAF, and they've got a head start on this.